People used to say, "Tyrone among the bushes," when I told them where I was from.
This was the first mountain that I knew as a child. Though we could see the mourns from across Lough Neagh, they were vague and shadowy and sometimes disappeared completely. But Slievegallen was always there. As I stand here on its slopes, below me lie the plains of South Derry and East Tyrone, and the towns of Cookstown, Moneymore and Marafelt. And further still, on the shores of Lough Neagh lies a parish in which I was born and raised, Ardboe.
So I came to consciousness to the sound of water, not the lively sound of river water, but the slow sough of Lough Neagh. And that's where this stream is flowing. It rises here among the rocks and heather of Slievegallen, tumbling on into flatter, more fertile land, getting wider as it goes. At last, it becomes a quiet ballinderry and flows gently on towards the loch, forming a natural boundary between Tyrone and Derry. It joins the broad waters of Lough Neagh near the parish of Ardboe. About 200 yards from the old cross, standing back from the road, is a house where I was born and reared. I have been walking up this drive, this path home, since I was eye level with the flowers. And even now, as I enter this door, in some part of myself, I'm that child again, surrounded by familiar objects, familiar light. From the kitchen window, you can look down on what was once the farmyard. It's deserted now, and so overgrown that when I'm walking here, I'm eye level with the flowers again. The 17th century poet Andrew Marvell's lovely lines keep echoing in my head, annihilating all that's made to a green thought in a green shade. At the top of these steps was the dusty space of the barn loft. Through the door, a mysterious world of chaff and cats and tackle. I remember being alarmed then by the springiness of the floor, but the barn loft is still standing. My grandfather, John Devlin, who was an eel merchant, built this house in 1911 and moved in here from the smaller one in the farmyard when my father was about 5 years old. And here is my father, Tommy Devlin, in a familiar pose. Above him on the mantelpiece, the family photos, reminders of other days. My grandparents on their wedding day. My husband Seamus and me in our 70s gear, looking more dated than my parents on their engagement day. My father in his 20s. Generations of Devlins, a family name that has been in Ardboe as long as the cross itself.
Ardboe is most famous for its high cross, surrounded today by these black railings, which are not very beautiful, but are essential for its preservation, for people leaving Ardboe wanted to take a piece of the cross with them. But for me, there's much more to Ardboe than just the cross. There's the history, the folklore, the music, the wishing tree, the people, the whole world of my childhood.
The old wishing tree in the graveyard is dead now, but its stark shape still dominates the skyline. Close by is my mother's grave. My father has joined her there now. Below the graveyard lie the green banks and the broad waters of Lough Neagh. We shore children were very proud of our loch. We knew it was the largest lake in the British Isles, that it had the power to turn wood into stone, and that eels came here, all the way from the Sargasso Sea. I've watched the fishermen go out in the loch since I was a child, all summer long, to catch trout, perch, pollen, and the mysterious silver eel, to draw for bait with nets and set and lift their long lines in a timeless ritual. Not far from the shores of the loch, and not far from our home, lies the old airfield of Clontoe. These hangars and sheds once housed aircraft and personnel. Now they're used by local people for factories and warehouses, for buyers and storage. These tall buildings, these wallsteads like a latter-day Stonehenge, these strange shapes among the bushes, and this potholed runway, this is all that remains of Clontoe Airdrome.
This was a control tower. It was used first by the Americans during World War II, and then again in the 50s by the Royal Air Force. But to make this air base here at Clontoe, whole town lands had to be cleared, and heavily populated ones at that. The very heart was taken out of Ardboe.
And as the wind from the loch whistles through the broken windows and crumbling walls, there's a real sense of desolation about the place. But once, from this control tower, aircraft were dispatched to patrol the North Atlantic. Planes rolled down this stretch of runway where hares are racing now. Soldiers and airmen mustered here for the D-Day landings of 1944. How many of those young men, I wonder, didn't come back? The airmen have gone, but the fishermen are still in the loch, hunting for eels, setting and lifting as generations have done before them. Seamus Heaney wrote a poem about lifting. A line goes out of sight and out of mind, down to the soft bottom of silt and sand, past the indifferent skill of the hunting hand. A bouquet of small hooks coiled in the stern is being paid out back to its true form until the bouquet is hidden in the worm. The boat rides forward where the line slants back. The oars in their locks go round and round. The eel describes his arcs without a sound. Now it's time to lift. The fisherman begins to haul on the long line, hand over fist, and the silver belly of the eel describes another soundless arc, in the air this time. He has made his way here from the Sargasso Sea, across the Atlantic, up lakes and rivers and drains, over dry land sometimes, to return to these same waters that his parents left 3 years ago, and now his journey's over. Which boat was which, and when did this begin? This morning, last year, when the loch first spawned? The crews will answer, once the season's in.